I wanted to talk to you initially, and we don't have much time, was about obviously the just rescuing the Republic, what that means really. And that will be the main topic. But first I want to get your comments on something that's happening as we speak, as I was on a plane heading here, and obviously you were on a plane as well. And that's the war in the Middle East. Things are escalating. And I know your stance over the years has been, trying to pretty simply avoid wars as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yet here we are. Your initial thoughts on how concerning do you think this is? And is it fear-mongering to say we're at the brink of direct conflict with Iran?
I think that things have escalated to the point where that's a valid and legitimate concern. The concern, that this is such a complex region as a whole, of course, but we didn't get here overnight. And so when we look at where we are, it's impossible to deny the fact that over the last 4 years, President Biden and Kamala Harris have had a direct role in strengthening Iran, which has provided a huge amount of funding and resources and training to Hamas and Hezbollah directly, which has further emboldened them to be in a position of strength and continue to launch attacks. And so, there's no quick or easy way out of this, but it is a time for leaders to recognize what a direct conflict would look like and the cost, and try to work towards that outcome.
I'm going to ask you a question.
To prevent
Yeah,
such a war.
but my question to you is like something we probably take 20 hours just to answer, but if you want to shorten it, like, how do we get out of this mess? Like, it just does, to me, to be honest, even the Ukraine war seems a bit simpler to kind of solve than what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Diplomacy,
It is.
What would be your obviously, how do you think President Trump would solve this if he's president, or to any other leader if Kamala becomes president? What would be your advice on how to be able to solve this?
We don't have time to get into the nuance and the details of all of the different countries that have a very direct or indirect stake in what happens there, for better or worse. But I think the difference between the way President Trump would approach this, again, not having spoken to him directly on this, so I won't put words in his mouth, but generally his approach contrasts strongly with Kamala Harris's, in that he really believes in leadership, strong leadership and direct diplomacy. And that is what will be necessary to try to navigate through this very complex region filled with history and threats coming from a lot of different directions.
Now, moving topics to the event you're speaking at today,
Yes.
Rescue the Republic. Like, it's very easy to speak about all these different issues, including the war in the Middle East, in Ukraine. But the issue of the kind of the foundation of the democracy we're seeing in the US, that the world, we're talking about me being from Australia earlier before the interview. Every single country, every single democracy looks at the US as that beacon. And it just feels like it's getting
Do you think
threatened.
that's still the case?
I think it's still the case. I'm very optimistic. I still think the case. I still believe in the American legal system, despite the lawfare that we're seeing. I believe in the systems that have been built in place, but I also believe they're being threatened, heavily threatened. My question to you, as someone who's obviously speaks publicly, but behind the scenes, you've got privy to a lot of information. How systemic is it? And do you think, 4 people, yourself, Congresswoman, the President, Elon, Mr. Kennedy, is it enough to solve this in 4 years?
Well, first starts with leadership. It starts at the top.
That's what Senator Johnson said as well.
It really, because it's true. Without that leadership and that strong leadership with a commitment and a strong backbone to take on this deeply seated corruption, it can't happen. And so President Trump's leadership, of course, the leadership that Bobby Kennedy and I bring to the table in our respective areas, the leadership of Elon Musk, there will be several people and thousands of people that will be required in order to root out this deeply seated corruption and those who are brazenly abusing their power right now. So it's not, getting President Trump elected is the gate opener for us to completely transform our government in this country.
Congresswoman, last question I have for you before you go board your flight is, I've got an audience that's not only an American audience, I cover geopolitical events as well. What would be your message to the world, including the democracies that are looking at the US as that beacon?
We have many challenges and many threats to the foundational pillars of our country. that has unfortunately dampened that once brightly shining light of liberty. I have hope and optimism because Americans who cherish peace and freedom and the opportunity for prosperity are coming together in order to restore that vision that our founders had for us. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this country and our construct and our democracy, is that that is what can bring about change, that we the people can save our country. And as I hope you've experienced here today with the energy in the crowd, and as I'm grateful to experience in many different parts of the country, there are more of us who want to save our country than there are those who seek to destroy it.
I agree. Congresswoman, pleasure to
you.
finally meet you.
So nice to meet you.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
Thank you.